what is addiction? I think what is addiction to each one of us here is very different. I think that could be a good conversation starter for each one of us. What is really addiction?
I think unless you are a parent or you're a spouse and you're facing addiction firsthand, you actually don't know.
Right.
You need to be facing it every day because it starts from the beginning, from the very morning, and then it goes on to the night, and then you're facing violence. I mean, it's something which people who have not faced it can't even perceive. People talk about legalizing cannabis, legalizing this, legalizing that, but if they actually spent a day in an addict's house and see how the addict is behaving, then honestly, I think all the politicians, all the policemen, all the, the public will not be talking about legalizing. They will be aware of it. They will also not be criminalizing it because they will understand it's also a disease which needs to be addressed. Because the addict cannot help himself. It's like a whirlpool. You're sucked into it. You're not able to get out. You need to lend a helping hand to pull them out. Sometimes the addict is going to resist being pulled out because he's happy inside that, because his awareness is also very limited. He doesn't understand there's a beautiful world outside. So he will remain there, and if who is trying to pull him out, he will try to suck them also inside. Many times the parent also gets sucked inside. And many times a parent is suffering a mental illness because you're facing this addiction day in and day out. There is no respite. It is traumatic. I mean, there is no word to explain the trauma which which the parent or the spouse goes, because you love your loved one who's an addict. You can't let go. The society says let go, but you cannot let go because next he's going to be in the gutter. She or he is going to be in the gutter, or he's going to die. So you can't. So you are there, but you can't be there because you're facing violence. He can't stay out of it. He doesn't even care whether it's your mother or grandmother he will beat you up to take the money, and the minute he knows he's getting access, somebody is offering, that's it. He's going to beat you up and he's going to break everything and take the money and he's going to run.
Right.
It doesn't, for him, he can't see anything beyond the addiction, beyond the substance.
Right.
So I think what we need to do is to create this awareness. Please, whoever is talking about, talking big about all this and then saying, no, you should legalize, etc. Please come and spend a day.
To me, addiction is a whole spectrum, starting from as much as alcohol, various substances like cannabis, opioids, or prescription drugs, and so on, right? There's a whole spectrum. I always have this question at the top of my mind, I'm sure. There might be people who ask, is pleasure seeking wrong?
See, seeking pleasure is not wrong. I was again trying to remember. Going back to our childhood days, we read about Mahabharata and all the mythology also, and where you have the use of something or the other as a substance which is identified being taken by Rakshasas and some people who don't take it. And so there is a lot of our historical way of looking at it. It is not now. It's a curious mind which wants to try something for the pleasure you talked about. At the same time, it's the influence of others. If somebody takes it, and whether he really has pleasure or not, or what he is experiencing, how he communicates to the other one. If he says that, look, you smoke and you feel real, you're in heaven. Okay, now that's good enough to say that, look, why should I be left out of the heaven? Why should I not try it out? Now, I think the curiosity has always been there in the mankind, and let's not forget it. The curiosity is, the driving force behind science. You want to try, you want to look into that, you want to look at what causes it, and of course the effects on the brain, and lots of studies go on like that. So the wanting to have pleasure, seek pleasure is not a bad thing. However, does it mean that pleasure comes only from substances? That's the question we need to ask. Okay, right. So many of us are here. Does it mean that we are not happy? Does it mean that we are missing out on something? No. There are substances which probably give you momentary kind of pleasure, but at cost of what? Okay, those things are conveniently forgotten. Okay, which I think is very important. It's like you have a pack of cigarette. Nowadays, of course, this statutory warning has changed now. earlier injurious to health. Who would read that? It's in small letters and probably at the bottom of the cigarette pack. So all you have is, some film star, Western movie star going on the, like a cowboy style, and you smoke. And what do you communicate? You're saying that, look, you can be or feel like that person at least for a moment if you smoke. Okay, if you look around, there are a lot of things which are encouraging us. Shopping, for instance. Okay, you shop, and there are a lot of people who tell you they feel happy at least till the credit card bill comes. Okay, then they have to start worrying about it. So likewise, restaurants, likewise, so many other things. And I think it's a cultural change. The concept of pleasure, concept of seeking pleasure keeps changing with generations, and no harm to think that these substances do give pleasure. However, it is when you get into trouble and when you start experimenting and when the problems are there, when you look around the people who are going through, you have to clearly wake up to the reality that there are lots of other ways of pleasure than this.
True, true. When we recognize that it is existent in the society, it is prevalent, right? And there are opinionators who are saying this is another medium where individuals are seeking pleasure. I'm bringing this up because a lot of them on recovery and my conversations with the recovering individuals, this is one real aspect. They say, this is where I seek pleasure. The rest of my life, I'm a real good businessman. I'm an artist. I'm a student. I'm able to hold up my life. What's wrong about this?
What is really pleasure? So when I was talking to this person, that person says, there is a difference between use and abuse. That is that person's point of view. And it was for me, when ma'am is just sharing and actually talking about her experience as a loved one, for me it's heartbreaking, because there are so many thousands and lakhs of people out there and who are actually experiencing this. For a person, it starts, with, okay, let me try it out. What's wrong with it? Or peer pressure maybe. Or they are going through, I don't know, stress, or they end up getting it, something. But then it starts spiraling, like, you said, and you don't know how it starts not just impacting you personally, but also people around you. And at the cost of, it could be your own, not just physical, mental health, your own well-being. And also, at the end of the day, a lot of young people, for me, my biggest concern is, not just their well-being, but also their lives. One of my own classmates, absolutely very nice guy, and we studied in school, and suddenly I find out that he just OD'd and died. Sometimes when parents find out, by the time they find out, it's just too late. And so it's like, it's really heartbreaking when, you find out that, lives are lost, or you just suddenly, some people end up losing their entire, impacting their own careers. Looking at that from that point of view, I think all of us, not just policy makers, families, loved ones, mental health professionals, everybody, doctors, enforcement, authorities, I think we need to look at things more holistically. If you're talking about pleasure and addiction, for me, the biggest issue right now is also social media, which has become a biggest addiction right now. With not just young people, but I think a lot of us. So I think there's a difference, right? Is something good for you? Is it going to be of some use? Is it a tool? Or are we end up getting succumbed to it? Is that controlling us, or are we controlling it?
Now, just going back to that question, what you mentioned. So here is a person, as we talk about, starting to use a substance, okay? And then subsequently, his life starts revolving around that. He wants that substance for relief of his symptoms, plus he can't live without it. The life goes around that, and there is a little bit of benefit in taking the medicine or taking the substance for relief or feeling good about, which is short-lived. But more so, it is about the negative symptoms or feeling restless, agitated, and wanting to have that for a longer period of time. So at the cost of his life, at the cost of his say hobbies, interests, in many people's life where that becomes their preoccupation, their drive to take that substance. But see, all of us do have a cup of coffee in the morning. Okay, we all have coffee or tea, and we are happy with that, and we are able to get on with their life. But just imagine the person wants to drink the coffee all day. That becomes his only job in life. So that is where you talk about harmful use or an addiction, where a person is unable to control that substance, unable to stop it, and unable to come out of it. So these are the things which defines a person who has got into addiction or got into harmful use.